Some women don't chase, and yet they are never forgotten. They don't raise their voice. They don't beg to be seen. They don't compete for space in a man's mind. And yet, long after the sound of their footstep has faded, their presence lingers like a perfume that clings to the air unseen, but undeniable. It is in this silence, this deliberate, aching absence, that a man's mind begins to turn inward. And when a man's mind turns inward, Carl Jung would say, he begins to meet the parts of himself he has spent a lifetime avoiding. She is not simply a woman. She is the mirror, the living embodiment of what Jung called the anima, the soul image that lives within every man, pulling him toward wholeness, yet terrifying him with the depth of what she reflects. When she is near, he does not see her fully. Her voice blends into the noise of his own restless ego. Her value is like the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, taken for granted because it has always been there. But when she withdraws, when her words stop, when her gaze no longer seeks him, something shifts. The easy certainty he once carried becomes brittle. His chest feels heavier, though he cannot say why. This is not merely missing her presence. It is the beginning of his confrontation with the shadow. In the early days of her silence, the ego does what always does. It explains it away. She's just busy. She'll come back. Or worse, she's playing games. But the silence stretches longer. And with each day, the noise of his life begins to fade, replaced by a growing awareness of the space she once filled. Here, Jung's psychology whispers its truth. The outer silence has triggered an inner one, and in that stillness, he meets the discomfort of himself. He begins to notice the absence not just of her, but of what she evoked in him: softness, curiosity, aliveness. Her silence has become a mirror he cannot turn away from. Picture him lying awake at night, the light of his phone illuminating a face that is suddenly unreadable even to himself. He scrolls past her name, not daring to call, because he doesn't know what he would say. In the corner of his mind, the shadow speaks. She's gone because you didn't see her. But his pride argues back. She'll return. They always do. And so begins a quiet war between his ego and his unconscious. When she was near, she carries projections like an unspoken burden. He saw in her what he needed to see, a source of validation, of nurturing, of beauty he could reach for without effort. But silence erases projections. In its place, the real woman emerges, not the fantasy he held, but the one who could walk away without trembling. Her absence forces him to reckon with the truth. She was never an extension of him. She was a force entirely her own. Jung would say this is where the animus and anima dance becomes dangerous. For to truly see the other is to dismantle the illusion of ownership. And this is where you must understand your own power. When you go silent, you are not punishing. You are not manipulating. You are reclaiming the energy you once poured into someone who mistook it for air. The silence is not for him. It is for you, for your clarity, for your healing, for the space in which you remember you were whole long before he noticed you. As the weeks unfold, he feels a strange ache of what Jung described as psychic withdrawal. The woman who once reflected his worth has taken that mirror with her. Now, when he reaches for validation, there's only the echo of his own voice. He begins to replay moments, small cruelties, missed glances, careless words, like pieces of film he didn't know was recording. This is the beginning of his shadow work, though he will not call it that. To him, it is simply regret. Perhaps he sees her in a crowded room, laughing, radiant, untouched by his absence. He will feel the sharp sting of recognition. She is no longer waiting. It is here the male psyche experiences what trauma psychology calls an attachment rupture. The safe harbor he assumed would always be there is gone. And for the first time, he realizes she will not return to fill the silence he created. Men often believe desire is born in presence, in touch, in words. But Jung understood that true desire is born in the gap between longing and fulfillment, between seeing and having. Her silence turns her into a figure half real, half myth. He remembers her not as she was in her imperfections, but as the untouchable, unyielding force she has become. And here lies the paradox. Her distance intensifies his desire far more than her closeness ever did. This is where many women falter. They break the silence to soothe his discomfort, to remind him of their worth. But the woman who understands her value does not fill the gap. She lets it grow until he must face the truth of what he lost. One night, in the privacy of his own thoughts, he admits a thing he never wanted to face. She was the anchor in his storm, the one who saw him not just as he was, but as he could be. And now, she is the proof that even anchors can drift away when unappreciated. Jung might call this the moment of individuation, when the man begins to see himself as separate, when he is forced to carry the weight of his own soul, without the scaffolding of her presence. For her, the silence was never about revenge. It was about return, a return to her own center, her own voice, her own worth. She learned that the most magnetic energy is born in the woman who is willing to walk away, not because she doesn't care, but because she refuses to betray herself in the name of being loved. She is no longer the mirror. She is the mountain, still, unmoved. Oh, the woman who walks away in silence isn't weak. She simply sees more,